I think that you can only put on the screen what you are, and I think that the way you construct your visual language, I was very fortunate to live in a very strange time. I was exposed to, my father won the lottery, and he then became sort of in a Dickensian way, he became a gentleman, and he heard that gentlemen had libraries. So he bought a library and a huge desk, which I used, he never used. And I read, he bought a few encyclopedias. He bought an encyclopedia of health, an encyclopedia of the arts, and a collection of books for young people, And I read all of that. I became a hypochondriac because I thought I had cirrhosis. I knew I was close to getting an aneurysm, but I became incredibly fascinated by the mechanisms of the body. Then I read another encyclopedia that included a chapter on automatons. And then I read the art encyclopedia at the same time that I was hooked on comic books. So for me, Monet, Manet, Degas, Klimt, whoever, had an equal value and attraction to the way I was watching Jack Kirby or Bernie Wrightson or Richard Corbin. They all fed my visual imagination. And finally, in the classics, I realized that my interest, which lay in the fantastic, would guide me to Victor Hugo with Hunchback of Notre Dame, to Dickens with Great Expectations, to Jane Eyre, to Wuthering Heights, to Frankenstein. And I just discovered a universe where there were no lines. The lines between highbrow, lowbrow, acceptable or not were completely blurry. And you construct a language that is unlimited because you are not self-censoring yourself. And I always say to people that are looking for their own identity, I say, just really go by your instinct and consume as much variety. If you only consume comic books or pop culture, only that, your language is narrow in that. If you consume it and process it also, the fine arts, so to speak, and the classical arts, the chiaroscuro, tenebrism, symbolism, whatever school you are attracted to, naturally, your language starts forming its own syntax. And it's truly fascinating how that then loosens the way you can see the mythic in Jack Kirby. You can see the Norse myths in Jack Kirby. And you can see the Kirby in the Norse myths. Yes. And so you really, I become essentially so hungry for images. My entire life is a collection of images in my notebooks, in my library, in my home. What I do, I am like the most massive magpie in the world that is so in love with the world that I want to collect everything beautiful and I want to repurpose it and send it again into the world in a different way. So the creation of worlds is very instinctive and it comes from the fact that you can talk about those worlds as if they were real. In the same way that in my life, I can talk about the Frankenstein monster with more certainty than many of my nephews and cousins. I know him that well. So you just...
I've seen him at your house.
Yeah, well, I live with very strange life-size figures, yes. But it's I truly believe that then you create a world that is never, I'm never bored, ever. I can be alone. I can be waiting for you at a restaurant for an hour and a half, and I watch people, and I watch how they are dressed. I watch how they move, and I make my stories in my head. Is this guy, what if he was ordering dessert and I see that a stain of blood starts extending on the tablecloth, and I see that he's dripping, and I go, oh. So it's very entertaining.
There's a few restaurants like that around.
When I go with my kids to the supermarket, we play a game where we used to say when they were very little, we would do the dialogue of people walking by, and then we would say, what do you think they're doing here? Where are they going next? It's just everything becomes an exercise in narrative in a beautiful way.